Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. My name's Connor from 905 Review. You guys are checking out our series Give This a Spin, where I recommend you some of my favorite albums. And what a special one we have on our hands today, the joint live album by Bob Dylan and the band, Before the Flood. Bob Dylan and the band go way back. Dylan had become quite the star in his early 20s as a folk singer with emphasis on politics and civil rights. It wouldn't take long for him to expand his horizons musically, such as the incorporation of electric guitar, something that was so controversial of this folk singer to do, but it helped him to having 3 of the most influential albums of all time under his belt by the age of 24, adding Bringing It All Back Home and Highway 61 Revisited to his earlier effort, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. And with those 2 later albums, he needed a backing band to play them live, so he got the band. The band had previously been known as the Hawks, fronted by the legendary Ronnie Hawkins, who would pry promising young artists away from their bands to create somewhat of an all-star team. However, these other fellows with their own ideas and ambitions didn't like the level of control Hawkins had, and they decided to part from their leader. And 2 years later, they'd be supporting Bob Dylan on a tour of North America, and then one of the world after that. And it's so crazy just how much of Bob Dylan's work has been captured, because this entire world tour can be heard on a 36 CD box set that was released in 2016. Much of the material on those set lists was made up of songs from those 2 last great albums of his, but also from another one, his 1966 release Blonde on Blonde, for which he actually recruited the band's Robbie Robertson. Following this strenuous world tour, Bob Dylan got in an accident on his motorcycle, which might have actually been somewhat of a relief, allowing the superstar some time to just disappear. And he would write tons of songs in this off time, even plenty with the band. Some he let the band use on their records, others he gave away to other artists, and word eventually got out of these basement tapes, and there was increasing pressure for them to be released as even bootlegs were made. Eventually, Dylan caved and allowed for the release of the basement tapes by himself and the band 8 years after they were recorded. Perhaps this is due to the success of a live album the 2 had just done together, which not only happens to be the first official Bob Dylan live album, but it also captures his first tour since the motorcycle accident and that tour with the band he had previously done. And while this tour lasted 6 weeks, experienced by many different arenas across Canada and the United States, this album predominantly just captures music from 2 consecutive shows in Los Angeles. We begin with a selection from the Blonde on Blonde album, Most Likely You'll Go Your Way and I'll Go Mine. And hot off a return to touring, Dylan sounds good as he ever has here, even playing this song less lighthearted than the studio version and with more energy and grit, something that the band has no trouble matching him on. That is followed by the Nashville Skyline hit Lay Lady Lay. It was already a popular enough tune, having peaked at number 7 on the Billboard after its release, but he and the band make it sound even better here. That's followed by a performance of one of my favorite Dylan tunes, Rainy Day Women number 12 and 35. And you can tell the crowd is all about this one too. While it is exciting to hear this one in a live environment and with the involvement of the band no less, it is hard to top the original. Then we have another classic on our hands, Knockin' on Heaven's Door. And while this is an all-time song they're playing, I feel like the performance is pretty on par with the original. This is also the lone performance on the album not from those 2 days in Los Angeles, this one actually being performed 2 weeks earlier in Madison Square Garden. We get back to something more upbeat with It Ain't Me, Babe. This is one of the oldest songs the collective plays here, dating back 10 years prior.
I'm not the one you want, babe. I'll only let you down.
And ending the first side of the first record, we continue our strong set list with a track from Highway 61 Revisited, Ballad of a Thin Man. As if their selection of songs isn't great enough, everybody truly delivers on this one here.
But something is happening, and you don't know what it is. Do you, Mr. Joe?
Flipping over to the B side now, we get into some band tunes, starting with Up on Cripple Creek.
Going up on Cripple Creek, where she sends me, and if I spring a leak, she bends me.
Now, maybe you expected him to, maybe you didn't, but Bob Dylan doesn't actually play on this one, nor will he on any of the band material that we hear. And I do find that to be a bummer, especially with Dylan even being involved in creating some of these songs, such as the next one, I Shall Be Released. It's a very tender and moving song, and it's executed so beautifully here. After that is a song of theirs that, as far as I can tell, didn't see a studio release for a long time, Endless Highway.
Take a silver dollar, put it in your pocket, never let it slip away.
It's a fun and upbeat one, but unfortunately it can't really compete with the band's big hits, which we get another of with The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. And it might be a bit of a nitpick from me, but those high keys during the verses on this rendition, they're just a little much for me.
Back with my wife in Tennessee, with one day she called to me.
Then after that is another of their hits, Stage Fright. I've heard so many of the band's singles on the radio in my lifetime, and this has probably always been the one that impressed me the least. And it's not that I hate it, it's just whenever it comes on, I can't help but think there's probably at least 5 other songs of theirs I would rather hear. And even though it's not a favorite of mine, obviously it's a hit of theirs. Obviously I don't hold it against them that they played it, and they did play it well.
Since that day ain't been the same. See the man with the stage fright.
Starting the second disc, we get back to some Bob Dylan tunes, and exclusively Bob Dylan tunes. He's the only one on stage for these. And that's okay, because we start off with the freewheeling classic, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. And with that being said, it is predictably less bumping than the earlier songs we heard.
It ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. It don't matter anyhow.
So we follow that with another calm one, the Blonde on Blonde track, Just Like a Woman.
And she ain't just like a woman. And she waits just like a woman.
This one already wasn't a favorite of mine, and I don't think this performance does anything to win me over anymore. One last solo Dylan track here he does deliver on, however. We have It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding. I mean, it's already such a great tune, and he plays it so well here, with full confidence too, feeding off the crowd every time they cheer.
It's alright, Ma, I'm only sorry.
And so the band returns halfway through side C for a couple more tracks of their own, starting with The Shape I'm In. And for as desperate as the narrator of this song is, you would never guess it by how much fun the band is having. After that is a more chill one of theirs, When You Awake. Unfortunately, it's not a favorite of mine, and again, the performance doesn't do anything to elevate it.
Sat upon my grandpa's knee, and what do you think he said to me? When you awake, you will remember everything.
One that is a favorite, though, that they do deliver on, is The Wait.
Take a load off Fanny. put the load right on me.
It's already such a classic, and they give it more life, or at the very least a new life, because I love how prominent the piano is here in that regard.
When I saw old Carmen and the devil walking side by side, and I said, hey Carmen, come on, will you go downtown?
So we circle back to some collaborations for the final record side, beginning with the classic All Along the Watchtower.
There must be some way out of here. Said the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion.
And it is hard not to think of Jimi Hendrix when you think of this song, but everyone still plays it pretty well here. A song Dylan managed to keep signature to himself, though, is Highway 61 Revisited. What a fun, rocking note late in our album.
Halfway down the highway 61.
And another after that is Like a Rolling Stone. It is a great performance, but again, it's such a legendary song that it is so hard to compete with. And we end our night 21 songs deep with Blowin' in the Wind. And this song, being 12 years old at this point, I think benefits so much from that age, because Bob had just turned 22 when Freewheelin' was released, and so he sounds like a young man on that record. And paired up with the lyrics here, it's like this young man is genuinely asking these questions. Whereas now, 34 years old, he's aged more and his voice is a bit rougher. The questions feel more rhetorical, as if he's already experienced them and knows the answer. That's just how I feel between the difference of these two versions of this song, and I quite enjoy thinking of it like that. Also, on a weird side note, this recording was actually two different performances that they at some point spliced together. Before the Flood is available on all major music formats and without any significant aesthetic variance as far as I could tell. While this album was fairly well praised, there were critics who found flaws in it, generally coming down to the collaboration aspect. Fans must have enjoyed it though, as it peaked at number 3 on the Billboard and has been certified platinum. Early on into the album, it's evident that Bob Dylan and the band are set on bringing more energy into these songs, perhaps fueled by being off from touring for so long. I do feel when both acts shared the stage, they had undeniable chemistry, but I do have to think there must have been a better way of utilizing both artists on this. Side B is purely the band, and while I do enjoy it, like, this should be a Bob Dylan and the band album. So once you get to side C and you hear Dylan again, it's like, you should have been here all along, man. And then those couple songs are just Dylan, so, you know, there's only so much that one guy's doing. It feels so much smaller than the other songs. And then you're back to having more songs by just the band again. What could have made this album perfect to me, in theory anyways, is if Bob Dylan and the band are on everything, and the band supports him on his songs as they did, and maybe he pitches in for a verse here and there on the band songs. And I would even give some leeway and allow 1 or 2 songs per artist to just be them. So I will be stamping Before the Flood with an A- grading. And I mean, Bob Dylan and the band, so much star power, and what a catalog of songs there is to choose from, which I would say they took good advantage of. The set list wasn't perfectly catered towards me, so there were picks that I'm not the biggest on, but at the same time there were songs that I couldn't have blamed them for picking. One aspect of the band's contribution that didn't sit totally well with me was the organ and electric keyboard. I mean, on their own material, you're expecting it to be there. Their songs were made that way, so it fits in well, but like, hearing some of the sounds they were doing over Bob Dylan stuff,
Who walks up to you when he hears you speak?
My brain was just telling me that like something's wrong here. And then, you know what? In that moment, I think I understood why way back in the 60s, people were upset about him picking up an electric guitar. But those are just my thoughts on Bob Dylan and the band with this collaboration of theirs, live collaboration no less, Before the Flood. Let me know yours. As always, I've loved hosting you, and maybe I'll see you again in the next one. You take care now. But real quick, before we take off, what were your thoughts on Before the Flood? Did I rate it too high or did I rate it too low? You let me know down below, as well as any other comments you want to share, or even any albums you want me to check out. Once again, I appreciate hosting you, and I'll see you later. Bye now.